This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
All right, another Farm Monitor off and running without Ray DeLessio, who is off this week. His absence, however, the only change in format. We'll still begin the show like we always do, and that is with this, something we call the show lineup. Straight ahead, although it faced opposition citing road safety and other concerns, we'll tell you about the new bill that is now headed to the governor's desk and how it could help producers cut spending and stay profitable. Also in today's program, you're going to hear about the challenges and opportunities facing Georgia pecan growers, including insights on international markets and the struggle against cheaper nut prices. Plus,
well, everybody, Ranger Nick here. Coming up a little bit later, I'm hanging out in Vidalia country, Toombs County. We're talking everything that makes this wonderful vegetable so sweet and a whole lot more. That and so much more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
after months of negotiations, House Bill 189 finally made it through the Senate. This is a big deal because it will increase the weight limit of trucks hauling agricultural goods on state highways. Damon Jones breaks down this new legislation and explains how it's going to benefit the farmers' bottom line.
With input costs up across the board, farmers are looking for any way to cut their spending in order to stay out of the red. It's a concern the Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team is well aware of, as they recently helped push a new bill which increases the maximum weight of trucks hauling agricultural goods through both the House and Senate.
This is going to benefit and impact a farmer's bottom line at the end of the day. If they can carry more weight per truck, more weight per trip, that's less trips that they have to take to get the same amount of goods from A to B. And so that's a direct benefit to a farmer's bottom line, really. And with transportation costs being so high these days, this is going to really make an impact on that and help out in that sense.
Not only will it be advantageous to their budget, but it will also give the farmers a little peace of mind knowing it can help protect them against future disasters.
Timeliness in getting a crop up and out of the field is really important these days. When you have a severe weather event coming through, the ability to get your crop harvested and out of the field in a timely manner is really important. If severe rain's coming, a bad hurricane or storm, being able to carry more weight is going to allow you to get your crop out more quickly, more efficiently, and hopefully be able to minimize some of the effects of a severe weather event like that.
The bill's passing didn't come without some opposition, citing both road safety and degradation concerns. However, being just a 4,000-pound increase, it should have minimal impact and could actually be a benefit in the long run.
We're really not talking about a ton of weight there, but we are talking about over the course of a year, that little bit of added weight is going to have major implications for the farmer, for folks hauling forest products. When you spread that out across a year, that starts to add up on the trips and the savings benefits. At the end of the day, you're going to take a lot of trucks off the road because it takes less trucks to haul the same amount of product now. And less trucks on the road has a number of benefits, from safety benefits to just traffic congestion and that sort of thing.
The bill also puts Georgia farmers on an even playing field with surrounding states, as a majority of those have already adopted similar legislation.
Most other states are at least 88,000 pounds or above, in some cases 90,000 pounds. And it varies state to state on if that's blanket across the board for all commercial trucks, or if that's just for ag products and timber products. But even though it varies state to state, the overwhelming majority allow at least 88,000 pounds for a 5-axle truck when hauling some sort of agricultural commodity.
While plenty of time and hard work went into getting this bill through legislation, it will only serve as a placeholder, with the long-term solution still down the road.
The bill does sunset after 2 years, so that sunset was put in place to kind of get us forward with a higher weight, put us on an even playing field with other states, but then allow us to come back and take another look at it, see what's working and what's not as we go forward. We think we're going to be able to address it here in the upcoming years and get something more permanent in place.
Reporting from Fulton County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Being that Georgia is one of the top pecan producing states in the country, it's important for growers to be kept up to date on the latest research, industry information, and equipment to make them productive and efficient as possible, one of the benefits of attending the Georgia Pecan Growers Association's annual meeting. The Monitor's John Holcomb has that story.
Down in Perry, pecan producers got the chance to attend this year's Georgia Pecan Growers Association's annual conference, a time that allows growers and industry professionals the chance to fellowship, see the latest and greatest equipment, and learn about what's happening in the industry.
It's really important for the industry to be transparent with all the knowledge that's out there available to them. This really focuses on their industry in particular, helps them with production on their farms, and it also helps them with marketing their product after harvest. We have a lot of our industry, national industry groups here reporting on what's taking place, both domestic and internationally, so the growers can be a little bit more in the know about the marketplace since we aren't a publicly traded commodity. It's a tough niche industry for us, so conferences like this for specialty crops such as Georgia pecans is just really critical for awareness, joining of knowledge and information, and of course camaraderie for the industry.
One highlight of the conference was getting to hear from Justin Jones, a Georgia producer that serves as the Industry Relations Chair for the American Pecan Council. Jones spoke to producers about the council's efforts and challenges with getting into international markets, especially at a time when other tree nuts are struggling with price.
From an international standpoint, the one thing we have to do is how do we separate the pecan away from other nuts? When you look at almonds, walnuts, and you historically look at where we've moved relative to each other, we move very closely. But now you look at what the challenges the almonds are going through, what the challenges the walnuts are going through, especially at a price point, and now you try to separate that out because the almond and the walnut guys right now are underwater with their price. I mean, they're in very bad shape, and so that's one thing that we're trying to do is keep pushing the pecan awareness, and that's the struggle, is trying to fight against other cheaper nut prices. This is a heck of a battle right now.
However, according to Jones, markets seem to be opening up in Asia, as India announced earlier this year that they'll be lowering tariffs on pecans by 70%, and China has finally lifted their COVID restrictions, to which Jones says has already boosted exports.
I think one of the biggest things we're looking at for this coming year would possibly be what we've seen here lately is China, which is a big market for us. Not as big as it has been, but it's still a big market. You look at when they released their COVID restrictions and kind of went back to a normal situation, I guess you could say, where you look at our exports just the last month or two. I mean, they have climbed tremendously just from somewhat opening up of the markets and people getting back to a normal way of life in China. So I expect some of that to happen. Will it move the needle enough to focus back to the grower level on price? Still to be determined, especially with other nut prices like they are right now.
Reporting in Perry for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Well, everybody, Ranger Nick coming up. I'm in Vidalia country. What makes those onions so sweet, and why is it that when we cut them, we don't cry? I got the answer after this.
The University of Georgia's Center for Food Safety is home to internationally recognized researchers who are making an impact through the prevention, detection, and control of foodborne pathogens around the world. These pathogens are responsible for 48 million cases of foodborne illness annually in the United States alone, and can be transmitted through food items including produce, meat, and dairy. Center for Food Safety scientists work to protect your food every step of the way, from farm to plate. In doing so, they are ensuring safe and healthy food for our planet's growing population by reducing the impact of harmful microorganisms on the global food supply. Center for Food Safety researchers strive to better understand the foodborne pathogens that occur on crops and livestock at all stages of the food supply chain. They use bioinformatics, machine learning, and data analytics to solve contamination issues that cause foodborne illness. They develop innovative technologies and ingredients to eliminate microbes found in food and the environment. They seek to understand how microbes survive in food and food processing environments. researchers at the Center for Food Safety have developed strong relationships with leading federal and state institutions, including the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Food and Drug Administration, and the Department of Agriculture, ensuring that the safest food arrives on your table. They also work collaboratively with members of the food industry to uncover new, innovative ways of preserving safe food. Protecting our food supply is an international responsibility. See how the Center for Food Safety is doing their part to advance the understanding of foodborne pathogens for the health of the planet.
Well, look at these beautiful onion sprouts right here. You know, most of the time when I think about onions, I immediately get a little bit emotional. Most of us start crying those tears because of cutting up those onions. But there's an onion in Georgia, the Vidalia onion, our state vegetable, that's a little bit different, that sweet onion. And someone to tell us a thing or two about that wonderful vegetable is Chris Tyson. Hey, Chris, good to be with you today.
Nice to be here.
I tell you what, you talk about an expert on onions and the sweetness of those. So Chris Tyson is the area onion agent down here in Toombs County and this area, as well as the superintendent of the Vidalia Onion and Vegetable Research Center down here. And I tell you what, Chris, if I'm going to ask anybody this question, it's going to be you. What makes these beautiful Vidalia onions so darn sweet? What is it? Talk to us about that.
Well, there's several things that go into making a Vidalia onion what it is and giving it its sweet flavor. One thing is our geographic area, South Georgia, and particularly a 20-county region right around Vidalia that has sandy soils that leach sulfur, and sulfur is what gives onions a hot flavor. And our soils don't hold a lot of sulfur, and so that helps give our onions a sweet flavor.
Well, and the cool thing about that, I think, in this box that we're standing in front of right here, Chris, I want to bend down here with you and show everybody at home. So at the research center, they are studying this aspect of leaching of that soil and that sulfur. So one of the things you're studying here is the clay depth. Why would that influence flavor depending on where that clay is?
Well, typically with Vidalia onions, the sandier the soil, the sweeter the flavor it gives.
Okay.
And so there are some differences in our soil types in our area, although as a generality, most of them are sandier, but we found that soil types from field to field can influence flavor some.
And it will vary.
It can vary. And so the other component of giving an onion its sweet flavor also has to do with how we fertilize it. And so what we can do is the more we know about our soil in the field, we can fertilize it just the right amount to help give it the sweetest flavor and also grow the best onion as well.
And isn't that incredible? Before we move on to learn more about what they're researching here specifically, why is it that when my wife and I cut into a Vidalia onion, we don't cry nearly as much or at all? What is that?
Well, the part of the onion flavor that makes you cry is something called lacrimatory factor. And we have lacrimatory ducts in our eyes that stimulate tearing when it senses something hot. But however, Vidalia onions are very low in that lacrimatory factor.
Well, we've made our way out to a field here at the Research Center. Take a look at this. Can you see the contrast between these onions and these? Chris, you were telling me a second ago, these are unfertilized, these are fertilized.
Yes.
Cool stuff, the value of fertilizer. But now what are you studying with fertilizer specifically?
Well, some of the things that we're looking at with fertilizer is the amount. You know, over the years, we've been able to help growers reduce the amount of nitrogen that they use on onions, reducing their input costs, but it also helps with the quality and the flavor of the onion. That's one thing, is the amount. The other thing that we look at, that we've looked at recently, would be the timing. When's the best time to apply certain amounts or certain types of fertilizer during the crop cycle.
Interesting. Now, thinking about fertilizer and thinking about that fertilizer going down and leaching, thinking about rainfall, I'm thinking about the folks at home. it's been a dry year, or it's been a wet year, how might that influence the flavor of this great Vidalia onion? What would you say?
Well, typically with Vidalias, in a wetter year when we have more rainfall, that would lend itself probably to a little bit sweeter onion because, you know, sulfur is what gives onions their hot flavor. And sulfur leaches or washes out with rainfall or irrigation. It washes out easily from our soils. So in a year when we get more rainfall, more of that sulfur is leached out of the soil. There's less available to be in the plant and give it that hot flavor. So in a wetter year with more rainfall, we could have sweeter onions.
All right, so Chris, for the folks at home, they're looking at this beautiful field of onions and these beautiful rows. Why the different colored stakes that we have out here? What are you doing in these rows?
Well, this field of onions is full of small plots that are just 20 feet long and 6 feet wide. And there's hundreds of plots out here. And these are all used for research. So we're looking at lots of different things out here, but one of the big things we do is variety evaluation. There's several, upwards of 30 or more varieties of onions that can be grown here and called Vidalias. And so what we do is we help to evaluate new varieties, evaluate old varieties, compare them to new ones to make sure that they meet the standards, the sweetness, and also make sure that they're good performers, they yield well, and they produce well. And so that's a big part of what we do here is evaluate these varieties and compare them to one another and also test them for flavor as well.
Well, and you think about the standards of the Vidalia onion, and we were talking off camera about the value in this research. If you wonder, well, why are we studying this onion? It's already been perfected. It's a wonderful taste. Well, Chris is looking at things like the amount of fertilizer it might take to get that same level of sweetness. And when we talk about sweetness, we're not talking about Chris walking up and down the aisles and taking bites of onions. How are you studying sweetness?
Well, a big part of what we do, all the varieties that we evaluate, we send to a laboratory that we've developed at the University of Georgia, where we can analyze the chemical compounds in that onion. And we've got some thresholds that we've developed based on consumer taste testing that we can test these onions against. And so we can test these onions in the lab and say, that's a good sweet onion, or this one's kind of hot. We don't need, this one shouldn't be a Vidalia.
That's so interesting, the chemistry behind this. If you got somebody at home that's interested in chemistry and putting that with agriculture, we can do that, you know. I got to tell you, Chris, thank you so much for today. This has been just eye-opening to me, these things, and what we're studying about Vidalia onions. Well, y'all know what to do at home. While you're online looking up more recipes about Vidalia onions, check out the Ranger Nick Facebook page, see what I got going on. And until next time, Chris, as we always say, I'm Ranger Nick for the Farm Monitor, reminding you that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching, and hey, look. We'll see you right back here again this time next month. See ya.
When we come back, this Olympic athlete broke multiple American records in running. Learn how her love for dairy and growing up on a farm contributed to her success and how she still incorporates milk into her daily routine.
Welcome to Growing Big with the Georgia Ports Authority. My name is Griff Lynch, the Executive Director for the Georgia Ports, and I'm so pleased to be with you here on Berth 1. Listen, it's no secret the types of challenges that all ports have been having over the last year and a half to 2 years, with the supply chain, backlog of ships at anchor. Well, the Georgia Ports is doing something about that. We have a $1.8 billion projects across our terminals happening as we speak, including the Mega Rail, Garden City Terminal West, Ocean Terminal upgrades, and here at Berth 1. What's happening? We've taken an old berth that can only handle small ships and convert it to a big ship berth. We'll be able to handle 7 ships simultaneously upon our dock, effective July of this year. What you see behind me is the first 4 cranes of the 6 that will go onto berth 1. We're going to increase our capacity by 25%. We're adding 1.5 million TEUs of berth capacity for a total of 7.5 million TEUs, effective July 1 of this year, 2023. So what this means for the Georgia ports is we're bringing our total cranes to 38 from 30 today. We actually have another 8 ordered for Ocean Terminal, bringing us to 46 cranes. You can't find this anywhere else in the Western Hemisphere. Thank you for joining me today on Growing Big with the Georgia Ports.
So, have you heard about Georgia Farm Bureau's podcast? Hosted and produced by John Holcomb, the Growing On podcast is all about keeping you in the loop with the latest agricultural news, issues, and topics right here in Georgia. You can easily tune in to the latest episode by visiting GFB's website or by searching on popular platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Play. Finally this week, from our friends at Holstein Association USA, comes the story of a 5th-generation dairy producer, an Olympic runner who holds numerous records. It explores how her background has influenced her athletic career as well as her advocacy for the dairy industry.
You can take the girl off the dairy, but you can't take the dairy out of the girl. Ellie Pierre St. Pierre from Berkshire, Vermont is a 5th-generation dairy producer. She's also a professional athlete specializing in middle distance and long distance running. St. Pierre set the American record for the indoor mile in 2020 at 4 minutes 16 seconds. A year later, she broke the American indoor 2-mile record at 9 minutes 10 seconds. Then, that same year, she finished first in the U.S. Olympic Trials 1,500-meter run at 3 minutes 58 seconds. That broke the meet record and set a personal best.
I was always really active on the farm as a kid. You know, I was doing heifer chores, helping with haying and milking cows before school. We, had about 40 Holsteins, and sadly we sold our cows in December of 2020.
Today, St. Pierre puts her love for the dairy industry to work on her husband's dairy farm. She says working with cows was her favorite part of growing up on a dairy.
I love cows. I'm a cow person through and through.
St. Pierre's natural ability as a runner surfaced during high school. She competed at the collegiate level for the University of New Hampshire, where she studied nutrition.
That's really where my career kind of excelled, and I just got better and better every year, and that is ultimately what led me to my professional career.
St. Pierre credits her dairy farm background to her professional career success. Drinking milk daily is a key part of her diet, and she turns to chocolate milk after workouts.
I do love drinking chocolate milk after my workouts, and I think it's the gold standard as far as recovery drinks go. And, has the perfect ratio of carbs to protein, has electrolytes and vitamins and minerals that you can't really find anywhere else naturally. It's so dense, it's a really nutrient-dense product that I definitely benefit from using and drinking after any of my workouts.
St. Pierre tells the dairy industry story every chance she gets.
I gained a lot of strength from growing up on a farm and learned a lot of life lessons that I carry with me in my career now. And after my training, I'm drinking milk, and I just kind of have a better understanding of biology and what I need to do to take care of my body. I learned that on the farm.
For Holstein Association USA, I'm Miles Ramsey.
Miles, thank you so much, and thank you for spending this time with us. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Have a fantastic week.